everyone, Professor McKinney here at Glacier National Park in Montana. As you can see, the views are beautiful today and cloudy. But I hope you've enjoyed, learning what you've been learning about in the text this week. And we are looking forward to talking about it more. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing really well. In this week's chapter, we are going to be talking about Chapter 14, which is specifically on managing employee engagement and turnover. So with that being said, we do have a special guest that's going to join us today. His name is Akil, and I will let Akil go ahead and introduce himself.
My name is Akil Lloyd. Right now, I'm an HR consultant, so I help companies who don't have an HR department with their HR needs or advice, any type of consultation. That's something that I've just started doing. What I like about human resources, there is no set template. Things change. You got to constantly evolve. And it's one of those things where it forces you to keep learning.
Awesome, Akil. Thank you so much for that brief introduction about yourself and what you like about working in HR. So now we are going to dive into our first learning objective.
What is employee engagement, and why is it important to organizations?
Employee engagement is crucial to organizations. It's your pulse. It lets you know what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. It's one of those things that helps with retention. You do want to make sure that you keep the best people, and in turn, those people attract other people that will help build up your organization. So it's important to let the employees know that their voices are heard because their opinions matter. If you don't solicit the help of employees, your organization becomes stagnant. You're out of touch, and that's not going to be favorable for employees. They're going to get bored. They're going to look for something new. They're going to look for the next shiny company down the street. So in order to really, really have a pulse in your organization to keep growing, you need to do different things with employee engagement, whether it's surveys. And if you're going to go the survey route, make sure you actually do something with that data. Because I worked for organizations and been a part of companies who just passed out surveys after surveys after surveys, and they just pile up. It's just like, what am I wasting my time for? So if you're going to go the survey route, make sure you utilize the data. And also, even though work is a business, make it fun. What do employees like to do? Figure out the things that keeps them coming back to work besides a paycheck. Once you're able to put all those elements together, you'll have a pretty successful employee engagement program.
What are the 3 types of organizational commitment?
The 3 types of organizational commitment are effective commitment, continuous commitment, and normative commitment. So looking at them closer, effective commitment, it refers to an employee's emotional attachment to an organization, or maybe they specifically identify with that organization. This typically happens because the employee is actually genuinely enjoying being part of that company or that organization and kind of the culture that's there. The second one is continuous commitment, and that is based on the perceived cost of what someone would lose if they leave that organization. Continuous commitment, they would stay at an organization because they're afraid of losing compensation, or they're afraid of losing their benefits, or even seniority, because if they went to a different company, they may have to start from the bottom and work their way back up again. Then the last one that we have is normative commitment, and that really comes from the employee kind of having like a sense of obligation or moral responsibility to stay with the organization. You often see that, because of someone that they feel indebted to an organization, such as if they were, personally in their life going through a difficult time, and the organization was just really flexible with them and kind of took care of them during that time. Someone feels indebted to that organization or they feel loyal to that organization. So once again, the three types of organizational commitment are effective commitment, continuous commitment, and normative commitment.
What are the 6 types of turnover?
The 6 types of turnover that we see in organizations is voluntary, involuntary, functional, dysfunctional, avoidable, and unavoidable. So voluntary turnover, what that specifically means is that an employee chooses to leave on their own. They are voluntarily leaving an organization. A lot of times they do that because they get a new job or because there's personal reasons that they have to focus on that takes place outside of the work. On the other hand, we have involuntary turnover. And that happens when the organization or the company actually initiates the separation. So you see that a lot of times when there's like company layoffs or terminations or when someone gets fired. Now we also have functional turnover. And that is when a low performing employee leaves and that actually benefits the organization. Now, the other side of that is dysfunctional turnover, which occurs when a high-performing employee leaves, and it could potentially harm the organization's performance or really kind of how things are going on. There's also avoidable turnover, and that refers to when people leave an organization and it could have been prevented. So, one way is like if an employee leaves because they're dissatisfied in what they're doing. That's completely avoidable. Now, unavoidable turnover, that happens when there's reasons beyond the organization's control, such as an employee has health issues or retirement, or someone needs to move because their spouse is moving to another part of the country. So, those are really the 6 types of turnover that you have. It's important that when you're looking at the types of turnover and turnover rates that you're actually kind of dividing them into those different areas.
What are the 3 types of involuntary separations?
So when we're talking about involuntary separations, these can include company layoffs or terminations for cause, also known for firing someone, or really kind of like downsizing an organization, which is related to separations. So layoffs, they are temporary or permanent job loss that's initiated by the company or the employer due to economic reasons or because they're restructuring how work's performed. Whereas terminations are caused when an employee is let go for violating policies or poor performance, or they do misconduct in the workplace. Now, downsizing related separations, what that is that it involves eliminating positions as part of a cost-cutting measure or organizational restructuring to try to make things more efficient. Specifically when you're kind of looking at the financial side of things.
How can voluntary turnover be reduced?
And it kind of goes back into the previous question. Employee engagement, stay in interviews. What I mean by that is generally HR practitioners do exit interviews. I'm not sure if you guys got to that portion yet, but if you haven't, exit interviews are the surveys at the end to say, well, why are you leaving? What could we've done better? And so to be more proactive about that, stay in or check in interviews are the new thing that's crucial. What are we doing right? What are some things we can capitalize on? What are some things that you've seen or heard that you feel will be successful here? And so doing that helps keep, again, a fresh set of eyes to a problem or process that you may face in your organization. But it also helps the employees feel involved. It gives them a voice to say, hey, I'm helping shape the culture of my workplace. So those things are important. But if you're not doing those things, yes, you're going to see the voluntary turnover. You're going to want to go to another company who advertise the things that you wish your organization did, or do those things, or how they choose to utilize their corporate social responsibility, those things that they look for. So voluntary turnover can cripple an organization. So we have to do all the right things to keep our staff.
Why is succession management important?
Yes. So succession management is also crucial to an organization, because when you have people a part of the organization who have a great deal of knowledge, have been doing the job so long, that's the sole person. If they are sick or get hit by the proverbial bus that people like to talk about, or if they just decide to leave, they're taking all of that knowledge with them. So it would be smart for employers to start lining up potential people to cross train, to learn these different roles, or to give stretch assignments, which means basically you're doing something outside of your job description to learn and grow into your role. So those things are pretty crucial. Succession planning also builds loyalty to the organization. If someone knows that they are going to be doing stretch assignments or taking courses to get them on road from a team member to a shift lead or supervisor, they're going to want to stay. They're also going to be your PR team to tell people, hey, my organization promotes from within. And you have testimonial and success stories. So succession planning is key, because once someone walk out that door with all that knowledge, it's going to cost you a lot of time and money trying to replace those things when we could have been cultivating in-house talent from the beginning.
What is workforce redeployment?
So a lot of people don't really talk about workforce redeployment, or, really even know what it is. So what it is that it's actually the process of moving employees to different roles or departments or locations within an organization to meet business needs. So this can occur when there's a restructuring, when there's a change in demand at an organization, or in efforts to try to retain talent by placing employees in positions that are more suited for their skills. So redeployment, it helps the organization adapt to changes while also maintaining those valuable workers. For a while I worked in the private security industry, and with that, we actually used workforce redeployment a lot. So we did like contract work, and would have so many workers at one place providing security. Well, if we lost that contract and we no longer needed those people there, instead of laying everyone off because we didn't have the work for them, we would actually try to find work for them at other locations. So that way we were able to keep good employees, still provide them with, their livelihood, right? Their paychecks, their benefits. And then we were just kind of reshifting them to a different area where we had a need. So that's what workforce redeployment is. And it's really useful if you can use it correctly in an organization. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video where we've talked about the learning objectives in chapter 14, which is all about managing engagement and turnover. This actually concludes our video series in this course, which I'm sure is pretty sad for you. We've covered everything in this book from front and back. I think we maybe left out like 1 or 2 chapters in our learning, but we covered most of it, right? A lot of the key points. And that's what this video series did, is we covered all the learning objectives. So, make sure that you still read the chapter. It's super important. But with that being said, I hope you've really enjoyed this video series and, short lectures or summaries on our learning objectives. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I've said this in 2 other videos, but also feel free to, subscribe to this channel, because when you're actually out working, you may try to figure out what is this turnover and how do I, deal with it? So, feel free to keep this stuff handy. That's why it's out in the public, as well as what we use in class. And as always, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Thanks.